Academica Media. From Academica Media Studios in Miami, Florida, it's Big Ideas in Education, a weekly recap of inspiration and innovation in your schools.
Hello, education lovers. Welcome to this week's installment of Big Ideas in Education. I'm Ryan Carella from Academica Media. Joining us on the show this week is Eric Walters, the Director of STEM Education at the Marymount School in New York City. Our guest uses a wide range of tech-forward solutions, including Vernier's video analysis software, to teach STEM to Marymount student population. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting marymountnyc.org. Eric, thank you so much for joining us this week.
My pleasure to be here.
Oh, I love talking to the teachers. You know, we get to interview a wide range of education professionals on this show, but when we get to actually talk with the teachers, the ones working with the reason why we're all in this business, the students, we get some great conversations. I'm excited to talk to you about your students and about STEM. So to start us off, can you tell us about Marymount and what makes the students you teach so special?
Oh my gosh, how long do you have? I think one of the great things, Marymount is an all-girls school. We're in New York City. And I think one of the great things working with them is that they're willing to take a ride with you in terms of their education. When we've designed, for example, our creative technology curriculum or our physics curriculum, it's very much hands-on. It's very much placed in their hands and letting them explore ideas that they're interested in. And by giving them that trust, that we trust them with their education, that allows them to run with it. And you can't ask for anything better than that when you watch them engage in their learning.
And the work that you do as a STEM teacher, I think, is all the more important because of the population that you teach. You teach young girls, a population that we want to get more involved in STEM. I know it sounds like you've dedicated your career as a teacher to that very point. Can you talk about the importance of engaging this population in STEM and how it informs the work that you do?
I think too often with teaching girls in STEM, we approach it from a victim status, that there's this gap in STEM and that our job is to help fill that gap. And I always go back to a conversation I had with a student a few years ago where she said to me specifically, I don't want to be portrayed as a victim in STEM. I want to be empowered and I want to belong. And ever since she said that to me, that's been sort of our motto, and our mission is to ensure that our students belong at the table of entrepreneurs and designers and coders and physicists and engineers. And to accomplish that, we really develop a lot of external programs and internal programs for our students to participate in so that they see that they are belonging at that table.
And a big part of that, I would say, from reading about you and the work that you do, is your emphasis on bringing the real world context for STEM. You want to bring theory into practice for your students. So, and I've seen some cool YouTube videos of some of the ways that you bring that real world context to STEM. Can you give us some of your favorite examples?
Oh gosh, I often get in trouble with friends and family when we're traveling because I will see a carousel or a rolling shopping cart, and I just have to stop and record it because I know that there's a way that I can use that in class. And that's where we bring in like Vernier video analysis, is that really anywhere the students are, they can record physics in the real world and then analyze it. So going back to your original question, like that's one way we do it, is looking at real world phenomenon and analyzing it as opposed to contrived phenomenon in the physics classroom. I think the other way that we do that is that I really want my students to engage in conversation and dialogue with the people that came before them, because everybody, regardless if you identify as a male or a female, everybody has a story to tell. And hearing those stories and being empowered by those stories is really critically important for our students. And that's where the STEM interview project that my honors physics class did this year, that's where that came from.
I love this. I'm so glad you brought this up. I kind of fell into something of a YouTube rabbit hole watching your students do these interviews with people who work in STEM. It's a whole interview series led by your students. Really cool way to expose not just to the world, but to your students specifically, the careers that exist in STEM and the people who've come before them, as you said. Tell us more about this series. I think it's really cool.
So we started this last year in my senior elective, atmospheric science, and continued it this year in honors physics. And there are a lot of really great programs like Skype a Scientist, where students can interact with scientists and ask questions and, as I always said, like, understand their story. But I also thought it was important. My students have their own interests in either physics, engineering, atmospheric science, and I really wanted to encourage them to start those conversations themselves. So the goal of the assignment is they have to reach out to at least 3 physicists or engineering of their own choosing. They look at their own interests, they work in small groups, and then they write the questions, they schedule the interview, they conduct the interview. The only thing I do is I edit the interviews at the end. It's a great experience for them. I tell them that the interview, 5 or 10 minutes. And this year in the physics class, some of them ran like close to 30 minutes. But I think my one favorite story for the whole project was last year, when a group came up to me the day before their project was due. And they don't get a grade on this. This is for their own value. They came up to me and they said, the person we were supposed to interview canceled. So I said, okay, find someone else. That's okay. So they came back a week later and they said, oh, we found someone else. And he works at MIT, and we really had a great conversation with him. So I said, well, who was it? And they said, oh, it was Kerry Emanuel. And I said to them, do you realize who that is? And they said, yeah, he's an atmospheric scientist at MIT. And I was like, no, he is like the all-time guru of atmospheric science. That's who you talk to. And their interview was phenomenal. A lot of times the interviews just go organically and naturally. They sort of give up on the questions that they have. They are really great conversations. The feedback I got from the students is they really enjoy doing them.
Sounds like I could probably get a few tips from these students of yours. That's really cool.
It's phenomenal work on their part.
Certainly, I might use them as guest bookers, considering the heavy hitters that they're bringing in for their interview series. That's really terrific. You spoke earlier about using the video analysis platform Vernier to illuminate some of your STEM lessons. Can you tell us a little bit about this platform and how you use it?
So I've been using it for, oh my gosh, probably close to 30 years now. It's a series of sensors. There are a number of companies that do that, but we like Vernier because it was founded by a husband and wife team in Oregon. And basically what it allows students to do is allows them to collect data and analyze the data. So for example, they may use a motion detector to record the motion of a cart in a contrived scenario. Or if they decide to use Vernier video analysis, they can record the motion of any object and then import that video into video analysis and then do some analysis of what they're seeing. So it may be something as simple as we've done a lot of things with it. When we're doing projectile motion, they record themselves playing ping pong because that's a great example of projectile motion. If we're doing free fall, it might be something as simple as tossing a ball in the air. But I've also had them record the motion of them pushing shopping carts when they're on vacation, and then they can determine how much force they have to exert on the shopping cart to get it to move a certain distance. So the thing I really like about it is that students can be physicists anywhere, anytime, no matter where they are in the world.
Well, that definitely feeds into your teaching philosophy about STEM. It sounds like a really great way to bring STEM to life, to bring the real world context to STEM using this video analysis platform. I think that's magnificent. For teachers who are intrigued by this, who are teaching STEM, want to do this with their own lessons, how might they get started with this platform? Any tips?
First, give Vernier a call and talk to them. They have, I don't work for them, but I do represent them educationally. They're always there to help. The other thing I'm always a big fan of is, if you're going to be using either their graphical analysis program or their video analysis, put it in the hands of the students right away and let them test it out, because they're the end users. So letting them explore the tools and seeing how it connects to what they're learning is always a powerful moment for the students. So, and I would also say, don't be afraid to take a chance. Not all the learning that takes place has to be in a textbook. Not all the learning that takes place has to be the problems at the end of the chapter. You can create a really strong curriculum using, like I said, there's a number of sensors out there, and a number of platforms and a number of tools. Start small, try it, see if you like it. If you don't, move on to the next one. I always say to our students, learning is an iterative process. It should be that for the students. It also should be that for the teachers.
Makes perfect sense to me. Yes, that's Vernier, Vernier, for the teachers out there who are interested in learning more. And if you're interested in learning more about our guests' work, you can visit marymountnyc.org, or check out the YouTube series and watch these amazing young people interview some really important people in STEM. Gosh, you're doing some really, really cool work.
Thank you so much. The students get the credit.
Well,
Their
God,
work.
Spoken like a true teacher. Well, let me ask you our final question here, because I think it might give you another opportunity to highlight and center the students that you care so much about. It's the same question we ask every guest that comes on this program. If with the snap of your fingers, you could make any change to the education system, what change would it be?
I think that's a really good question. I think it's something that a lot of us as teachers consider. And I'm just going to say, I already snapped my finger, because this year, 2023, 2024, I changed my approach to homework in so much that the students in my class only have at most 1 hour of homework per week.
Really?
And going along with that, I eliminated end of unit tests and moved to every other week short assessments. The student stress level has come down considerably. The work they do outside of class is their own review. The work we do in class supports their learning, so that we become much more of a community of learners and less of a, I'm providing the content and you're going home at the end of the day and repeating that content. And I'll quote Alfie Kohn, who is a educator and a thought leader when it comes to homework. He's always said that what we ask students to do is we ask them to come to school, go through a schedule of 4 or 5 or 6 classes. Then we ask them to go home again at night and go through that same schedule of 4, 5, or 6 classes doing homework. So I put a lot of thought into doing this, and the benefits that I've got in the increase in mastery of content for my students has been very noticeable. So that's the finger snap that I did last October, and it's one that I will continue to do going forward.
That is really thought-provoking, Eric. I mean, I know that was supposed to be my final question, but what you brought up is so intriguing that it warrants a follow-up. I would imagine that the conventional wisdom in STEM education has to be the opposite, right? Most people are saying, oh, if we want kids to learn STEM, we need to give them more homework. We need to give them more assignments, more preparation, more practice because these concepts are so challenging. And you're saying it's just the opposite. What's more important is building this community of learners, reducing our students' anxiety, self-esteem, self-concept, and all that. Am I sort of mischaracterizing what the conventional wisdom is here? Like, what do you think of that perspective?
I think your conventional wisdom is spot on with every high school course.
Yeah.
That it's how much work we give you. And, I look at the students if they're copying homework, then they see no value in it. So like I said, I put a lot of thought into what I give them for work outside of class. And if the focus is always on mastery, then they should have that time outside of class to work towards building mastery in a way that's comfortable for them. But giving them, 20 problems to do, 20 physics problems to do is not particularly effective. Now, that said, and I'll be really clear about this worked for me. It may not work for world languages. It may not work for math. It may not work for other disciplines. And I think it reflects the idea that as teachers, we have to think of who our students are and building a user experience for them. And that user experience has changed considerably since when I first started teaching. So listening to your students, getting their feedback on a regular basis, to me is the most important thing. And after doing this approach to homework, after about 2 months, I got their feedback. A couple of students said, you know what, I need more structured review. And I was happy to provide that. Most students said that they felt their stress level has gone down. And the one thing I noticed, the number of emails that I got outside of class had gone down. My students said that when they were working either on a lab or homework problems outside of class, and they reached a point where they couldn't move forward, they felt like it was really a lost learning opportunity. So by building all those experiences into class, and it took some curriculum maneuvering to get it to work, they were able to work collaboratively to solve problems as opposed to working independently outside of school to solve problems. So that kind of support as a community of learners, I think, was really important for my students.
That's really some powerful perspective. You've given me a lot to think about as I'm a college instructor myself, and I'm always trying to figure out what the right mix of in-class work, out-class work, homework, classwork is. And you've definitely made me want to reevaluate some of my curriculum. So thank you for your perspective, and thank you for your time this week. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for checking out Big Ideas in Education.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.